A U.S. district judge issued an injunction this week allowing a group of jury activists to continue protests outside the Lindsay Flanagan Courthouse in Denver. The decision stems from the complaint that Denver police removed the group's tent and seized up to 1,000 jury nullification pamphlets outside of where the final stages of the Pharaoh's bar trial was taking place. David, admittedly, when we got into the legal details here, I didn't understand a lot of it, but it did seem there was a clear criticism of how the Denver police handled the situation.
Well, some of that clear criticism came from the Denver city attorney in the extraordinary step of publicly telling the Denver police, cut this out, stop arresting people for handing out fully informed jury pamphlets. That's part of their free speech rights. And of course, David Lane took the case to federal district court and won an injunction, a preliminary injunction from Judge Martinez saying exactly that. What happened after that was they set up in a plaza chairs and a shade covering, and the nicest way to interpret what the Denver police did next was, well, there are still rules against obstructing sidewalks and things like that, and they thought they were enforcing that. Whether that really applies to where these people were set up is questionable. They say in the latest round of seizures, they didn't seize any jury pamphlets, fully informed jury pamphlets. I actually spoke with David Lane this morning. He says he's got 10 witnesses who said they did. So, maybe the best defense the Denver Police Department would have is, well, if we did seize pamphlets, we didn't mean to. We were just like grabbing everything. So we weren't specifically grabbing those pamphlets for their communicative content. As again, in almost every place in the state, people can elect the chief law enforcement officer. They can't do that in Denver. The Hispanic Leadership Forum has been proposing the idea that we ought to be able to elect the Denver sheriff. Same point goes for the chief of police, or you could consolidate that and say, let's elect the manager of safety, who's in charge of both of those.
Natasha, obviously the Denver police could be in the headlines for much worse reasons. I mean, as bad as this is, with courts injunctions, things like that, it could be a lot worse. But this still is not where I would imagine Mayor Michael Hancock wants to see the Denver police make the news. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. I actually spent a good chunk of this year following the Denver Police Department, learning about the Denver Police Department, reading about the Denver Police Department, and the story that actually hits newsstands this weekend. And one of the things that's really important is this question of trust and loss of trust between the Denver Police Department and the community. And how do we rebuild that? Now, pretty much everyone in the city has different ideas for how that can occur, but one of the things that Chief White talked to me about was putting goodwill deposits into the bank with the community, to have these daily interactions with police officers that were positive, to have the community feel like they could trust them, so that when something tragic happened, that they would have more established trust with the community. The problem is they're not really great about putting those goodwill trust deposits in when you have situations like this. And the question that always it seems to come back to is that even if the police, even if the officers were justified in what they were doing, is what they were doing justifiable? Is it the best way to approach the community, to approach people who are petitioning on the street? Are their actions what needs to happen in this community right now? And I think that's what the Denver Police Department has the biggest trouble figuring out today.
Jessica, the Denver police, I think, they've been trying to do things right, but obviously not really succeeding that well. It could be a lot worse. I don't want to make too big of a mountain out of this, but it certainly could be better. What do you think?
Oh, I think this is huge. I think we should be rioting in the streets.
That's
and
a
here's
call
why.
for rioting there, Jessica.
We need to be rioting.
Very busy.
Very busy. We're going to be rioting all week, and here's why. The average juror, the average person out there doesn't know what jury nullification is. The average lawyer, maybe even a sophisticated lawyer, doesn't know what the term encumbering means in the context of whether a police officer can lawfully take somebody's purse or their jury nullification pamphlet or whatever else from a public square. So we need to simplify this. Denver police, when there are citizens gathered and they are handing out pieces of paper to other citizens, walk away. Grab a pamphlet, read it, learn about it. Learn about things like encumbering or jury nullification or whatever else. But don't screw with us when we are engaging in our First Amendment right. Now, the police will come back, the city will come back and say, well, this was in the political context of we had this death penalty trial. We were worried that things were getting heated up before we were certain we were going to have a death penalty verdict in where we have this black suspect or this black convicted murderer now. That didn't happen. But that being said, this is the time and this is the context when we need our police officers and our city attorneys and our law enforcement officials to say, go and peacefully assemble. Because if we don't have it there in the public square, literally the public square, we don't have a First Amendment right in Colorado.
Patty, wrap it up for us.
Well, kudos to City Attorney Scott Martinez for even before the federal judgment came down for saying this is wrong. You know, there have been some tough protests. The protesters who marched and hung things on the fallen officers' monument. This is not the same thing. These are guys just handing out brochures. If the Denver police can't, and being peaceful and sitting under a little tent, if the Denver police can't tell the difference, if they can't restrain themselves on something like that, then they are going to lose the confidence of the public.